what I'm teaching men is to be their authentic selves, to be real, to be honest, to be transparent, to be vulnerable, and learn to do that in safe places first, and then show that to the world, show it to women, show it to, just be that way in the world. And so, no, it's not about becoming not nice. It's about becoming authentic, empowered, purposeful, passionate, and living life on your terms.
I've got a guest for you today, and it's Dr. Robert Glover. Yes, the guy that I've been talking about for 5 years on this channel, who helps men stop being nice guys and begin being themselves. He's the author of the book, No More Mr. Nice Guy, which I heartily recommend for men and women to read if you recognize the pattern of nice guy syndrome. Robert, it's so great to meet you.
Anna, thanks for the invitation. I've been looking forward to our call because I just absolutely love the name of your podcast.
So I'm really glad to meet you. I've been talking about your book for about 5 years since my son told me about No More Mr. Nice Guy, a book that has made a huge impact on the world. I was looking at the number of people who have even rated your book on Amazon, and it's a huge book that's influenced the culture.
It does seem to be having an impact. I think I'm actually still kind of absorbing and adjusting that just me, like you say, you're just, you're you. I'm just me, and apparently us just being ourselves has a good impact. So that's a good thing.
For people who haven't read Robert Glover's book, No More Mr. Nice Guy, it's something that really needed to be said, and it was kind of crazy that it had never been said so clearly. But nice guys are not that attractive to women and can lead a really empty life. And can you tell me about that, how you ended up becoming such an expert?
Well, it's interesting. I had a client call a little bit early. It was just an hour ago, got off that call. And right at the end of the call, he said, I need to go back and re-listen to your book again. And I go, okay, sure. And he said, I got a question. The book's been out a while. It has been out about 25 years now. And he said, would you rewrite it? And I said, well, actually I had a chance 8 years ago. The publisher said, do you want to update it? I said, let's just refresh, spelling, correct errors. I'll write a preface to it. But I liked it. I mean, that was about 15 years after the fact. It's 25 years after the fact. My royalty checks keep getting bigger every year. So apparently it's every bit as relevant as it was 25 years ago. And maybe primarily just, because more people hear about it, and like you, tell other people about it. And there's more nice guys out there. Now the whole Gen Z, they got a term for it. They call them simps. And you're right. When I addressed the issue, I started working on my own nice guy issues 30 years ago. And then I was a marriage and family therapist, and I'm not offended by the title of your podcast. And men walking in my office were saying the same thing that I said. I'm a nice guy. I'm one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. I'm trying to make my wife happy. I treat her better than her ex. I'm raising her kids. I give her everything she wants. It's never enough. She's always angry. She never wants to have sex anymore. I thought, I can finish her sentences. So I realized I wasn't the only person out there. So I started a No More Mr. Nice Guy men's group. We met every other week. I just started writing lessons, chapters to give the guys. I had no intention of writing a book. I didn't even realize it at the time, but I wrote to express myself, to understand things. And I just kept writing over a period of time. They said, Robert, you should write a book. You should go on Oprah. This could be a bestseller. Well, that shut me down right there. Oh, who am I to go on Oprah or write a bestseller? But I just kept writing, and the book came out right around the turn of the century as an ebook, came out in print 2003. And as I mentioned, it continues to sell more every single year. Royalty checks keep getting bigger. And nobody at that time really had addressed codependency in men. Now, I consciously did not use the term codependency in the book, because prior to that time, the word evolved out of addiction studies, to where you've got an addict and then a person in relationship with the addict, and so they call them the co-addict or the codependent. Just like this person was dependent on drugs, alcohol, gambling, whatever, this person was dependent on managing the dependency of this person, either in trying to fix them, get them better, hide their booze, bail them, or enabling them, right? And I guess maybe just kind of gender specific roles that were playing out 25, 30, 50 years ago. A lot of the addicts were men, and a lot of the co-addicts were women. And maybe women are more naturally fall into that caretaking mode in their relationships. So all the books that have been written that I came across were all written towards either just non-gender specific co-addict or just women in general caretaking in their relationship. So I decided not to use the word codependency and just called it nice guy syndrome instead, because I didn't want people picking up a book, especially men picking up a book and saying, codependent? Well, I'm not a woman. How can I be codependent, right? And so I just called it nice guy syndrome. And actually there's a term I like better than codependent, and it's called borrowed functioning. And that is, I only get my identity, my value, my purpose in relationship to something or somebody outside of me. And so, like, I've got my pit bull Nala lying at my feet right now. Well, I get a lot of value out of my pit bull. People love my dog. That gives me value. Well, now, if that's the only thing I get value from, or if I'm dependent on that, that's borrowed functioning. Or if I have a pretty wife, and I get value because I have a pretty wife, that's borrowed functioning. Or if I have a partner or a family member who has problems that they need me to come help them solve and fix, and I get identity and value out of that, that's borrowed functioning. And ironically, when it plays out in these relationships where one person is, quote, fixing the other person, if I get my identity out of fixing you or you needing me to fix you, I actually have an investment in you not ever getting better. Because if you actually get better, you won't need me anymore, and I won't have a role or identity or a function, and you'll leave me because you won't need me. So all the while I'm trying to fix you and resentful that you're not actually getting better with all my help, I'm actually working against you ever getting better because I'll be out of a job. So I don't know if that answered the specific question, but yeah, I'm a recovering nice guy. There's the short answer.
Yeah, well, I feel like it's in my blood. I've dated nice guys. I've rejected nice guys, for sure.
Oh, yeah, and you asked me why women aren't attracted to
Yeah.
them. I guess I should come back and answer that
Yeah.
question. Probably for a number of reasons. Number one, how do you be attracted to a rescuer? Like somebody that thinks you're broken, you're problematic. I'm going to come rescue you. And you need fixing. I'll come fix you. Now, you may accept my generosity, but that doesn't make you attracted to me. But even a bigger piece is that nice guys always approach relationship from a state of lack, of not enough, of needing, I need a relationship. I need this to have a sense of me. So there's no real strong me there. I talk about nice guys being chameleons. We become whatever we think people want us to be. So the two things nice guys are always doing is trying to become what we think other people want us to be liked and loved and get our needs met, and hide anything about us that might get a negative reaction, get us punished, scolded, rejected, whatever. And we've been doing that since childhood. So there's no me there. And typically, most nice guys are not well resourced. We're giving so much to other people. We don't give to ourselves. We don't surround ourselves with people who want to give to us. So we get into a relationship from this empty, needy place. And to the woman is, like me, love me, desire me, want to have sex with me, so I will have some sense of value and identity and fill this big empty place. And most women are going like that. You women, you feel the energies more than we men do. You sense it in your body. And so, Mark Manson wrote, his first book was called Models. And he actually told me a couple months ago in an interview, he would not have written Models if he hadn't read No More Mr. Nice Guy. So I took that as the highest compliment, because now we all know him for Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck and Will Smith's biography. So the whole premise of the book Models is called something like Attraction Through Honesty. And the whole premise is don't be needy, because women are turned off by neediness. So, even if your husband who, Rob, that I just got to wave before the start of the call, if he was not taking good care of himself, if he was not well resourced, if he did not have a full life, if he did not have his guy friends, if he did not have his work and his purpose and his mission, if he did not have, his regular exercise, if he did not have, his downtimes of where he nurtured himself, and he constantly came to you for you to fill him up, and especially came to you sexually to fill him up, you'd be going like this, because you don't want him to come hook up that hose to come fill his empty space. And so I talk about in No More Mr. Nice Guy, often when, women are going like that to a man, either whether it's a single guy just talking to a woman or a guy in a relationship that's been with the woman for years. The guy thinks he's being rejected for sex. No, you're rejecting the neediness, that hose that the man wants to hook up, and because he's doing it in his covert sexual manner, it looks like you're rejecting him as a sexual partner. No, you might love having sex with this person when he's filled, well nurtured, overflowing, rather in that empty, needy place. Nice guys, as I define them, are rarely well nurtured, well filled, and overflowing. We're usually empty, needy. Please, as I'm going to give to you, covert contracts, like I talk about in the book, I'll give to you so that you'll give back to me your love and appreciation and your sexuality.
Yeah. Covert contract, that was a phrase that really resonated for me when I read it. And here 5 years later, I still think about that. It's like a secret agreement.
Me too. I still think about it.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Yeah, my husband was a little hard to get for me. And I was chasing him, and that didn't work either. And it was quite the dance of like allowing things to happen slowly with no chasing, because he wasn't going to chase me.
I'm not a big fan of chasing in any way.
No.
So it's better if things just unfold and we let them happen. We just say yes to the things that are wanting to happen for us.
Attraction sort of shows up, and there's no other way to honestly measure if a relationship is real, if there's something there. So that's, I coach a lot of women in dating, and, it's a lot of overlap with what you're coaching men in some ways, but it's a bit, I say, let information come to you. Let it come to you. And then you start to notice, and that when you need somebody so bad, and that's, it's totally understandable that people need love, and so many of our relationships have been melted down and destroyed, and so it's easy to grasp at somebody who's like might go on a date with you and think, this is going to fix my life, but it can really turn into like this freight train that's just like dragging you along toward not a relationship. And that's really common for people with trauma wounds. Their original relationship with parents was pretty messed up, so that attachment wound is just following and following everywhere.
Yeah, and I read a quote years ago in probably a text on codependency that said we'll be attracted to people who have some of the worst traits of both of our parents. And I mean, if you think about
it, yeah,
exactly. Not a good time to drink the coffee when you go, So, and Dr. David Snarch in Passionate Marriage talks about relationships being a powerful personal growth machine, and I love that term. And they're powerful personal growth machines because of the way that they trigger our childhood trauma, our mommy and daddy issues, all that attachment stuff to our first love objects, to mom and dad. And so that is going to always, the way I'm a systems trained marriage and family therapist. So I've been trained to look at relationships as a system, and the system that two people have, say two adults in a relationship, exists the way it exists because both people need it to. Otherwise, it wouldn't. And so what we all do is unconsciously we co-create systems with people that actually do mirror our earliest love relationships, for good or for bad. And that's actually really good news if we know that's happening, because then we can take all the projection we have for our partners, whether it's the obsession we have with them, the crush we have on them, the neediness we have with them, the finding the flaws in them, everything that comes up. It's just information, and it's old information. And if we're conscious and usually need some support, a coach, a group, therapist to help us do that work. But it's really powerful stuff. When I was a marriage therapist for years, I'd tell every couple that walked into my office, and I've actually told a lot of single people this too, I tell the men, whatever your male brain thinks a woman can do for you is wrong. And what I tell the women, whatever your female brain thinks a man can do for you is wrong. But we have this cultural meme that probably existed for quite some time, that if you want love, or if you want companionship, or if you want, whatever we're seeking, you go find it in a member of the opposite sex, and then you'll feel whole and complete. And the truth of that is that rarely happens. And I'm a big fan of let's go build connection with ourself and members of the same sex. I always told every couple, best thing you can do for your marriage is have good same-sex friends. You women, you're pretty good at that. You keep your girlfriends, even if you guys, get together, break up. My wife just told me today about my 17-year-old daughter is sad and depressed because her best friend just quit liking her and now has another best friend. I said, no. And so I'm going, women. So yeah, you guys break up with each other a lot and trade off being
we have
best
our own
friends.
things, and especially my viewership is people with childhood trauma. So relationships of all kinds can be fraught, hard to feel connected, and easily broken apart, triggery. Yeah. So it takes.
But at least you women tend to keep other women around, mostly.
We try.
Men, as you know, men get in a relationship and what guy friends they had, well, we're too busy. We want to spend time with our woman, or maybe the job or the kids, and we feel guilty if we go spend. And so guys lose that connection with other men. But I believe it's essential, and I've always told men, a great relationship with a great woman is built on the foundation of your good guy friends. Because what if your woman's mad at you or withdrawn or just even out of town or in a mood or PMSing, and she's your best friend or your only resource? Where are you going to go? Who are you going to talk to? Who are you going to get supported with? Who are you going to go hang out with?
The relationship's ending, and the risk of becoming desperate to save the relationship at any cost is so much greater when you don't have friends, when you don't have people to hang out with.
Exactly. Yeah, and most guys find out, I did, when I've been married twice, or I've been married 3 times. I've had 2 marriages end. Whenever those ended, come to find out, the only friends I had were like the couple friends that we had. And nobody wants to get in the middle of, the friends divorcing. And I always had to start all over again. So I did it different. When I got married the 3rd time, I went and joined a men's program and started building friends going into it rather than waiting for it to fall apart. And now when my wife and I married 8.5 years ago, I maybe had 1.5 good guy friends. One was on his way out because I was about to boot him out of friendship. And now I've got easily 25 to 50 men. If I called them, they'd get on a plane, fly down here to Mexico if I needed them. But that was the work I've done for the last 8 years to build that foundation of good guy friends. And as I built that, my marriage has just kept climbing and gotten better and better. And it might not have survived if I hadn't done that. So I'm just such a big fan of, and again, nice guys often don't have those good guy friends. We seek our validation from women, and probably you've got a few women that listen that seek their validation from men. But that's not going to serve us. It's not going to get us the thing that we're looking for.
For us, men are so magic.
We think you're magic too, probably just for different reasons.
It's a good thing, right? It's good. It's good that we think that. Then we find out.
That's not bad. I'm just saying, if we've got a good foundation of good same-sex friends, when we find out they're not, the opposite sex isn't magical, they're human, and they're really different from us, then we can go, oh, okay, now let's work with it, rather than going, well, that didn't work, I'm out of here.
Yeah. Eventually, I want to get to talking about the programs you have for men, but first, I want to ask, how does a man know that he's got nice guy syndrome?
Probably enough people will tell him that. Now people, after guys have read my book, they'll go, oh, I hate it when somebody says, you're such a nice guy. You seem like such a, no, don't say that. I'm not. Probably people will tell you that. The way that, but to actually for a guy just to do maybe a little self-diagnostic, do you tend to give more than you feel like you get back? And that's that covert contract. So we can go more into detail of that. Usually nice guys are giving a lot more than they get back. Do you struggle to get into a relationship? And all that being nice doesn't seem to make you attractive to women. Once you're in relationship, do you hide the things about you don't want your partner to see? Do you find yourself trying to fix and go along to get along, not rock the boat, try to keep her happy, all that happy wife, happy life stuff? Those are probably nice guy traits. I think one of the most common traits, and this is kind of hard for nice guys to actually look at in themselves, is just a generalized frustration and resentment that leads to maybe a core depression or lethargy in life. And that frustration and and resentment often comes from the covert contracts that we've mentioned. I give this, I treat people well, I'm not a jerk, I hide my sexual agenda, I'm different than other men, blah, blah, whatever the nice guy's trying to be. Yeah, and that's another one that comes up. If you've been trying to be different from your father or different from other men, probably another sign you might be a nice guy. But that is that frustration and resentment, because there's a beautiful quote. Let me see if I can get this right the first time, by Neil Strauss. Said that unexpressed expectations are premeditated resentments.
Yeah.
Unexpressed expectations are premeditated resentments. That's the covert contracts. I'm going to give this to you, and then in return, you'll give this back. But I'm not going to tell you I've got a contract. I'm not going to tell you I'm being nice to you and solving your problems so you'll appreciate me, love me, want to have sex with me, and never get mad at me. You don't know that. It's covert. But is my expectation, but I might even keep it covert to me. I might just think, well, I'm just being nice, but no, there's strings attached. It's manipulative. I want something back from you. And then when you don't give it back in the way I want it, or the amount I want it, or in the timing I want it, I get resentful. I get frustrated. And as I talk about in the book, for nice guys, when what we're doing isn't working, when those covert contracts don't work, guess what we do? We just try harder. We do more of the same thing because it's the only paradigm we got. It's the only roadmap we have. I give to you, you should give back. And usually that's in the form of appreciation, being so thankful, and again, never getting angry at me or accusing me of anything. And of course, at some point in time, wanting to take your clothes off with me. That's the reward. And when I don't get that stuff back, that leads to resentment, even rage in nice guys, which is hard for us to see because I'm a nice guy. I'm not rageful. But oftentimes nice guys
That's what I've seen is first passive aggression and then overt meltdown, big blow up. What do you think causes men to become this way?
That's kind of the whole big trauma question. In No More Mr. Nice Guy, I talk about, I think, a lot of familial, cultural pieces that have contributed to this kind of wave of nice guys. Whether it was the Vietnam War, when boys decided to be different from their fathers. Feminism, I think, had a big role in it. Educational systems played a role. Media's played a role. Men not being able to trust or be connected to their fathers has played a role. Mothers living through their sons and using their sons has played a role. Nowadays, with more of the millennials and Generation Z, my son's a millennial. He'll be 40 in August. What I hear from men I work with who are like 40 and below, rather than saying, oh, my parents were divorced, didn't really know my dad, or I saw him on weekends, or he was angry or an addict, so there's never a real connection. Nowadays I'm hearing from the men, oh, my dad was a nice guy. And all he taught me was, don't piss off your mother, because that's what he was trying so hard not to do. So even now we have nice guy dads raising nice guys. Now throw in the whole hashtag Me Too, whole toxic masculinity, whole woke movement, that everything that men do is bad. We've got just a lot of guys out there going, well, I better not do anything that upsets anybody. And so they end up being this kind of spineless, passive, go along to get along kind of person. And then they can't figure out why women aren't attracted to them, why they're just, they're 22 and still in their mother's basement playing video games, smoking dope, and jerking off to porn on the internet and haven't had a girlfriend or been laid. It's just, there's a lot of factors that go into it. And no one is like the cause. But a big piece that I see and that I'm really working at helping men is, for a lot of men, is just being disconnected from other men. We're meant to have tribe. Men throughout all human existence have been connected through other men through tribe. Nowadays, most men don't have connection with other men. And whatever little connection men have, especially in younger generations, it's all on social media. It's not even like doing real things with real people.
Video games.
It's just like, just scrolling, video games. So when we see so many now depressed men, isolated men in their 20s, 30s who've never been in a relationship, a lot of that piece is just, they've never had a masculine initiation. They've never gotten connected with other men and learned how to get out of their comfort zone, get out of the nursery where everything is pushed to them, everything is easy, where they're validated by their mother, where whatever. get out there in the world of men where things are challenging and have the support of other men to learn to face challenge and realize you can get comfortable being uncomfortable. And then once, my theory is, once a man has gotten comfortable in his own skin and feels competent and strong, that's highly attractive to the feminine. Then the women come to him. He doesn't have to chase them, kind of like you came to your husband. And I think that's what happened throughout all time. Once men at about 12, 14 years old were taken, from the mothers by the tribal leaders, initiated through some scary event, having red ants put on their body or jump out of a tree with a vine
Or
tied
actually
around
going to
them, or
war.
going to war. The movie 300, The Boy in the Cave with a Spear and a Wild Animal, A Vision Quest, whatever the men did, once they were initiated, the men then took them, anointed them, you're part of the male tribe, and now the women came to them because the men had what the women wanted. They had, the provider, the protector, the furs, the foods, the fucks. And nowadays, because men have not been taken away from their mommies out of the nursery and not initiated by men, it's like they don't have anything that women want. And it shows. It shows. So again, there's so many moving parts to all of this, but I'll keep bringing about a good start to try to start reversing it, is providing safe environments for men to go connect deeply with other men.
Yeah, one thing I remember about your book is that the same dynamic happens to gay men too. They can be nice guys.
I remember one workshop I was doing in LA several years ago, and there was like 3 or 4 gay men in the audience. They identified themselves as gay. There were probably about 25 guys there. And I was talking about what I call the relationship pyramid and how I break down different types of women and which ones to connect with and which ones to avoid. And at the very bottom tier, I called them the psycho bitches from hell. And I looked back to the gay men. I said, do you guys have a term for that? And they go, psycho bitches from hell. It's the same. So I found that a lot of men, and I live in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, a very, very gay-friendly community. And the part of town I used to live in for about 6 years was where a lot of the gay men hang out. Most of my guy friends were gay. And, I occasionally got hit on, and I just smile at them and say, yeah. They knew I was straight. But anyway, they had to try anyway. And so, I'd have a lot of conversations with them. And yeah, a lot of them were nice guys as well. And gay men who've read the book, even though it's written pretty much from a heterosexual perspective, they go, I just can reverse, the gender, the opposite sex, whatever. And they go, it's still, everything fits. It's still so much the same.
I was almost scared to tell you how I heard about the book, but my son asked me to read it.
Oh, I love good
My
stories.
son asked
Okay.
me to read this, and he was pretty young. I think he was like 20 at the time, 21. He had just come out of his first serious relationship. And I didn't see him once I knew what a nice guy was. I knew what it was. Once you hear the name for it, you're like, oh, yeah, I know what that is.
Oh, yeah.
My stepdad had that. Yeah, I know what it is. I know the anger. I know the passivity. I know it very well. And I didn't think of my son that way. But he, I was like, he has a strong father. We had a terrible marriage, but we were very successful in co-parenting as divorced parents. And what he helped me to recognize, it's not like he lectured me, and some of it, like, we don't talk about. You have to have some boundaries with your kid where you don't like pull the veil up. I don't know. He'll see this. He was so excited I was talking to you. He was like, oh, right on. But
and everything you're saying, he's going to watch and listen to.
Well, when I first started Crappy Childhood Fairy, he shot all my YouTube videos and all my courses, and he was in high school. He was like 17, 18 years old, and he was learning all my wisdom about dating and, healing from trauma. So he had the benefit of that. But when I was getting divorced from his dad when he was 4, there was a lot of fighting. It was brutal. And then he went back and forth between our houses, but I had 4 years of medical stuff going on. There was a doctor made a mistake on a surgery, and I ended up having to have 14 major surgeries. And after a couple years, when I did date, the guy turned out to be an addict, and then he unalived himself when I broke up with him. And we had huge trauma in the house. And I'll back up to say, when that happened, there was this really incredible police officer, because the guy made it so I found him. My kids were out in the
Oh my
car in their
goodness.
little car seats, and this police officer came and took me by the shoulders. And I always say in the memory, I can't remember his face, but I
Oh,
remember his chest and shoulders. And he was just like, "Ma'am, the way your kids feel about this is going to be how you show them it was. And they need to know that you're strong and you can deal with this." I don't know who that guy was, but he just totally saved me. So I went back on this mission to show the kids that I was strong and I could deal with this. And this level of mistake was never going to happen again. And they were too little to understand. And I eventually got married, but my husband didn't meet the kids for a year. We had to know that it was serious before they met him. I introduced stress into their lives as little kids, and that made them insecure, and they were worried whether I was okay. And my younger son was so young that I think he took it on less, but my older son really took it on. He was like my little gent. He was always looking
yeah.
out for me, and when he saw me upset, this is like the worst thing that happened. I hate to even admit it, but I'm going to tell you. He must have been, I don't know, 3, 4, and I was crying in front of him. There was so much hardship going on, and I was crying in front of him, and he grabbed my face and turned my face towards him, and he goes, "Don't be sad, Mama. Don't be sad. No, don't be sad." And I was like, "Oh, I got to pull it together. God help me. I got to pull it
Yeah.
together." And so my own healing as a person took a huge step up because of what he said to me. But his role of being my little gent, I still saw it again, like, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago. His dad and I had an argument, and we raised our voices. It was about money, as co-parents will have. We get along really well. We're friends. I'm friends with his wife. We all spent holidays together. But I was pissed off about money, and we raised our voices. Immediately, my older son came running in, and he's like, don't fight, you guys." And it was like the 20-year-old version of like, "No, Mama, no, don't be upset."
Yeah.
And he had
Yeah.
taken it on. And part of what I wanted to do for him, and I did my best, you can't really undo a wound. He's got to do that, but I totally apologized for, being so, kind of a C when he was little, and said, "Any way that you felt like you had to take care of me, you are hereby set free. Like, I've got this now. And I've got a husband, and
Beautiful.
you're free, and you get to be a kid, a young person, and you do not have to take care of me." And I feel really good about that. And I thought of it because I read your book. I just realized, like, I have to completely liberate him from this obligation to me. But we have had so many laughs, Robert, about your phrase monogamy with your mom. And I made a video with that.
Mono to mom.
So now we joke about it. I go, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, me and my girlfriend, we're going to go up to the Russian River." And I'm like, "What about me?"
Yeah.
We're just kidding. You know? And so we've had a lot of
Oh,
fun with your book.
we could do probably 2 or 3 calls on monogamous to
Yeah.
mom.
Yeah. I had a letter from somebody that
Uh,
was really big on my channel. I take letters a couple times a week, and from people, and it's usually about relationships. And it was a woman writing into me about somebody she was dating who could never make time for her because he had to spend all of Sunday with his mom all the time, and then on Saturdays he had to repair all her stuff. And it went on for like 3 years, and the mom didn't even like her. And I was just like, if you're asking my opinion, I don't think this is working out. And I told her about
yeah.
your book. Said, I think you might want to read this and just see if this is what you've got. And so I often don't get the privilege of hearing back from everybody, but woe to the
Yeah.
woman who marries a nice guy. It's a hard road for her
Well,
too.
shall we talk about a little bit about monogamy to
Yeah.
mom, since you've teed it up beautifully. That's probably the biggest question I get from people. If somebody says, if I'm giving a talk or I get an email, and if they say, "Dr. Glover, I have this one question about your book, or No More Mr. Nice Guy," and I usually know what it's going to be. It's going to be about monogamous to mom, either because I was still working through it myself with my own monogamous relationship with my mother, and so I couldn't explain it super clearly, or it's a challenging concept to explain and illustrate. And I think it is probably some of both, but especially the latter. You and I were talking a little bit about fiction books before we started recording, and I love fiction. And so a writer I love is Chuck Palahniuk, who wrote the book Fight Club. And there's a scene, and they did a beautiful job in the movie in adapting the book to the movie. The other book we were talking about, of course, was Gone Girl, which I said gave me the willies, because this was the Ben Affleck character in the movie was a total nice guy with a total borderline, highly intelligent borderline personality woman. But I tell men, read fiction. They're the original self-help books. Storytelling has always been how we, the hero's journey or the morality tales or how we pass on wisdom. And we've kind of gotten away from that. No, just give me a short, TikTok clip. No, read a book. Go read some fiction. So in Fight Club, the people that have seen it, there's a Brad Pitt and Edward Norton characters. And there's a scene where Brad Pitt is in the bathtub and Edward Norton's talking to him. He says, I need to find a girlfriend. And the Brad Pitt, there's a line that says, we're a generation of men raised by women, and another woman is not the answer we're looking for. Okay. Bring that to another book by Chuck Palahniuk called Choke. And also made that into a movie, but that movie wasn't that great. In this book, it's about, most of his books are all about young male protagonists. And in this book, this guy had a mentally unstable mother who told him he was born of immaculate conception. And he was truly monogamous to mom. He actually went to, he would be a 12-step sponsor for sex addiction, and he would have sex with women in the restroom and then sign off that they'd attended their sex addiction meeting. So he was a messed up guy. But he loved his mother. She would steal buses and kind of hijack the bus and him and drive off somewhere on an adventure. So she's in a mental institution, and he's talking to a friend about his mother. And about all her craziness, but the fact that, he loved her and cared about her. And there's a line in that book that says, when your mother is your first spouse, every other woman after that feels like a mistress. That, to me, encapsulates the monogamous to mom dynamic so powerfully. When a boy gets parentified by mother, called up to take care of her needs, be different from his father, get her to stop crying, solve her problems. My mother told me as a boy, I'm raising my sons to be different from their father. And then several years later in my 30s, when I learned about boundaries and I started saying, Mom, I'll talk to you about anything, just not Dad. No more complaining about Dad. I mean, she was married to him until he died in 2009. Because I belonged to her, right? All those boundaries, she'd guilt me, she'd cry, she'd get angry, she'd get passive aggressive. I ended up not talking to my mother for 15 years. Just because I belonged to her. I was her property. I was supposed to be there. She told every woman I've ever been with that says, I think your mother's jealous of me. I go, yeah, you're probably right, because everybody tells me that. She told my second wife, I saw him naked before you did, kind of, staking her claim. So, and to this day, I just got to celebrate my mom's 90th birthday with her last week up in Seattle. But after that 15 years, my dad had a stroke, passed away, and my mother and I hashed everything out. So that's been like 15 years ago. I think we now have a fairly boundaried, healthy, reciprocal relationship. Wow. So, but it took a lot of work, and it took 15 years of not talking to each other. But yeah, I was monogamous to my mother, which meant that every other woman became a mistress. And what I find with so many men, when mom is that first spouse, we can't get all the way in with another good woman, because either that'll be being unfaithful to mom, or that'll mean we're having an actual better relationship than mom ever had with a man. And so there's a lot of pieces. So where I see it show up in men is either just picking troubled women that we got to fix, that the women can't get in, or picking women that are addicted or can't tell the truth or can't be faithful, picking women we don't really love and we're not really all in with ourselves. And it could even be being gay. There's a dynamic that when, as a boy, you emotionally had to be there to take care of your mother in any way, either because she was depressed or controlling or, unhappy or demanding or whatever. It does create that attachment wound that, as you said, you told your son, you're free. Go live free. And, I'm still working on this stuff. Just 2 weeks ago, I think you can say this on the air, I did a day-long MDMA therapy session in Austin, Texas with a coach. And that's pretty much all we worked on was my childhood traumas around how I had to give up me, not just for my mother, but just to keep the peace and the happiness between my mom and dad. and how I always sacrificed me and always had to be close by, and I couldn't wander off, and I couldn't go, be social with other kids. My dad was very restrictive. We had curfews that were really strict. I was always in trouble for being late. And because I was raised by that, being monogamous to mom, didn't want to be like dad, raised in a fundamental Christian church, the women that liked me, the girls that liked me when I was a teenager and adolescent, maybe even wanted to be physical with me in some way. I couldn't see it, couldn't go there because I had to, I had that thing of being monogamous to mom. I couldn't be that kind of guy. And so instead I'd be the nice guy, and I'd use nice guy seduction. I would try to do nice things for them, solve their problems, listen to them talk about their problems while hiding any sexual agenda, because that's what kept me monogamous to my mother. And of course that led to a number of problematic relationships in life, just because I wasn't allowed to get into a good relationship with a great woman who would bless my life, who I could be completely in love with as she was completely in love with me, because that would be being unfaithful to mother.
What you're describing sounds a lot like, I talk about this a lot with people who were neglected or abused as kids. And a majority of my followers are women. It's going for unavailable people, unavailable, inappropriate, or even abusive people. And it's a pattern, you can't see. And I know about this because I did it. And I did it again and again, and I could not see why it kept happening.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty deep process to turn into somebody who could see the red flags and also felt attracted to the green flags. And I can hardly describe why would healthy people be so uncomfortable, but we've talked about it in my community, and we've come up with, I don't know, it just makes us feel kind of ashamed or something to be around functional people.
I think I'm thinking it might be even more of a nervous system issue, because when I started dating in my late 40s after 2 marriages that lasted 25 years, and these 2 women that I was married to for 25 years, I should not have dated either one more than 3 dates. There was enough visible reasons not to keep dating 3 dates in. But because I was drawn to whatever, I could fix this, or a good woman wouldn't want me, so I got to settle for this, or I don't know if I'll ever find another one again, so I better stick with this. And so when I started dating, I quickly came to realize that I was amazingly attracted to either unhappily married women and or unhappy women that had lots of complaints about their past relationships. Why? My first love object was an unhappily married woman. And my job was to be the good man and fix that and be different than the other dad, other men. And so I discovered that luckily pretty early on, because my second wife was married when I met her. And then I actually dated a few women who were on their way out of marriages. I say that in quotes because they didn't necessarily ever get out. But I'd get involved with them. And of course, they were unhappily married. Or I found out they didn't even have to still be married. If they just had enough horror stories about their exes, that was an amazing turn on for me. So the good news is...
Like the hero, the savior?
I'm going to come to the rescue. But what I realized is that energetically I was drawn to that. And the women who didn't have that, I could see they were good women. They treated me well. They didn't need me to fix anything. They didn't need to rescue anything. And I was as bored as I could be with them, and felt nothing, not even a spark of attraction. Now, I don't know that I've completely rewired that. And if you did, good. I mean, there's
enough
good tools
that
out
I
there
got myself into a good marriage. Yeah.
And for me, it was enough that at least I noticed what I was attracted to and learned to walk away from it. Because even if, if I was that good guy that got involved with a woman's life who had all the horror stories, I found out sooner or later, if I stayed with her long enough, I started having empathy for her exes, thinking maybe they weren't as bad as what she says they were, and maybe she was the common denominator. And I soon ended up on that list of horrible exes because I was a guy.
No, not you, the good guy.
Yeah, not me, the good guy. So I at least did learn to walk away from what I was attracted to. And then, as I tell men, sometimes you just find whatever flavor of crazy you can best manage, you can best live with.
Yeah,
you can best
I just
handle.
find it's been my experience that people are powerless over who they fall in love with. It's, it just, it happens.
I would agree with that.
And so
Yeah,
the
I'd agree.
change that has to happen for that to shift in the character and who you fall in love with is so deep. It's very hard to access. It's sometimes underneath language, underneath cognition. There's something very deep that happens. It took me a long time to get to
It,
it.
it, it might even be epigenetic or, evolutionary based. I
Oh,
mean,
God forbid.
again, yeah, it might be past lifetimes. I don't know, There's so many pieces that go in. And the good news, we're never going to figure it all
No,
out. That's
no,
okay.
and we need not. It's
And
just,
that's
it's just
okay.
like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do today?
What are we going to do different today once we recognize our patterns? And again, I was talking to a client earlier today, and he said, "Can you give me just one to-do item as we get off the call?" And I go, "Yeah, just be the observer of your tendency to be codependent with your estranged wife and your two daughters. Just notice." Well, what should I do? Nothing. Just notice. Because the ability to notice and be the observer of self is really the fundamental core of how anything
Yeah.
changes in life.
Yeah, that's for sure. So you offer programs for men these days.
I
Yeah, what
do.
are they like?
They're good. They're really good.
Good to know.
Is that your question?
Well, what are
It's
you,
like when women would ask, when I was dating, women say, "What kind of car do you drive?" And I go, "A white one." I don't know if I answered the
no,
question or
once
not.
I
No,
once in the past, no, I actually invited you to be interviewed a few years ago before I was big enough to be noticed, I think, in your inbox. But now I'm so big. I'm
no,
so big. No.
yeah. Actually, probably what happened is you were probably one of several
Yeah.
hundred. I got to tell
Yeah.
you a story. I just got a virtual
Uh-huh.
assistant. Just this week. You actually have been dealing with my new virtual assistant. We just started working a week ago, and his first task is cleaning up my
Right on.
inbox. And I hate to say this, but my professional
Yeah.
inbox had 2,800 emails in it.
Yeah.
That's some of those were answered,
Yeah.
some not, some didn't need to
Yeah.
be answered, but there's a bunch of them in there that probably
Yeah.
should have been. He's working backwards on 2024 now, but it goes a lot. So probably you didn't work. It's not a matter you weren't big enough. I just saw the email go. I'll
I'll
get to that.
Well,
and
now I'm the
didn't.
person who does that, and I have no excuse. I have a team, but I can't keep up with everything anymore. And there's so many important things to focus on. The world is like in
Yeah.
need of
That's why I'm loving having a virtual
yeah,
assistant, just because, I don't, there's the learning curve as we both learn from
yeah,
each other of how to do it. Luckily he's trained in how to do
yeah.
it. So that's
No,
good. He leads me.
I know what it was though. But I looked at your website back when I first read your book, and I was like, ooh, look at all these topics. And I thought, these are topics I would sort of look at it like, I think some of these topics I should make videos on. I was really intrigued by your topics at the
Good,
time. And I thought
good.
they were pretty edgy. You're an edgy guy. And some of the stuff that you work with men is helping them, get out of the restraint of being super nice. And in the interest of our traumatized audience, maybe we won't go all the way into some of the programs, but the gist of what you do in your workshops for men, I'm very interested in, just for the men listening. And
Yeah, let's
yeah,
talk about that. That's interesting because I actually see myself as being very vanilla, very, very, very white bread. Most anything edgy about me, I actually learned that from women who taught me.
yeah,
Who kind of helped bring out my
yeah,
dark side, bring out that other part of me. In general, the programs. One, I'll just mention this is Integration Nation. It's a men's membership program. I launched it coming up on 2 years ago, July 23. And it's an international men's program. Right now we're hovering about 500 guys in it. And we have over 70 calls a month men can access. We're really just about building community and connection because so many men are not connected with other men. I do a call every Thursday. We alternate times every other week where I either teach a lesson, I interview somebody. Last week I interviewed Dr. Jed Diamond. Tomorrow I'm going to interview Sarah Dawn Moore. I've interviewed Mark Manson. I've interviewed Gary Chapman, who wrote Love Languages. So I either do an interview or I teach a lesson. We have breakout rooms. So I'm on a call every week in Integration Nation. Right now I'm teaching a series of lessons. We're on about lesson 8 or 9, probably gonna be about 12 lesson series on freedom, the paradoxes of freedom and how we give our freedom away, and how even just choosing one thing actually takes the other thing off the plate. So being free actually limits our freedom, but that's why we have to choose wisely. So I'll teach a lesson. We'll do Q&A a lot of times. Sometimes we just do a Q&A call for an hour and a half, where I just answer questions. We have 9 weekly, we call them tribe calls, led by certified No More Mr. Nice Guy coaches that meet for an hour at different times and days during the week. And we have clubs that men can come be a part of. It's all part of one single package that guys can join. But the core piece is just building connection, men getting real with each other, being vulnerable with each other, letting men give a shit about them as they give a shit about other men. And it's primarily virtual. We do have an annual conference. We had our first one back in January. We're planning the next one in Playa del Carmen, Mexico for next January. And it was so great watching all the men see each other in person. And like they fell more in love with each other, going out and having fun together, doing practices together, having meals together. And it's like, one guy told me later, he said, I've never trusted men. And I go, it doesn't show, because you got really connected. Now he's coming to a workshop with me, and he already booked up to come to one in my house to be around men. So most men do have father wounds, and a lot of men have been bullied. And so we do have our men issues. And that's why we'll often turn to women, I'll go get love and appreciation and tenderness from a woman. And we don't go to men. But we actually work on helping men deal with their father wound. We introduce ourselves on the call by saying our first name and then son of. And we've had a few guys quit, so I refuse to do that. And I go, okay, you don't have to do it. But the fact that it triggers you is getting you in connection with whatever your father wound is. Now let's work on it, right? Let's work on it. Because none of our fathers were near as bad as we think they were, or near as good as we think they were. But I've had some guys say, yeah, my father really was all that bad.
Some are.
Okay,
Some are.
Great. Say the name of some mentor, some man you have respect for, or just say your name. But yeah, I've had guys get mad at me about that. Not many, but a few. So we do. I have such respect for men when they do have father wounds or were bullied by other men, where they'll come and at least try and connect. And as soon as they get vulnerable with a guy, and that's held with respect and regard and love, and they go, oh, this actually feels really good. So we're about that. I have a workshop here in my house this weekend. It'll be 8 guys, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday. I do one about every 2 or 3 months. And I just lead it like a men's group. I limit it to 8 guys. We just spend Friday night talking about why'd they get on an airplane and fly down here, what do they want to get out of the workshop. And we just go deep, and we talk about anything and everything, whatever's up for them. It might be relationship, it might be dating, it might be monogamous to mom, it might be making our needs a priority and how to get our needs met, it might be around boundaries, it might be healing the father wound. We'll go whatever direction it goes. And I tell the guys when they get here Friday night, I said, you're looking around, you're measuring each other, you're judging each other, you're already creating hierarchies in your mind. Well, I like him, I don't like him, I wish he hadn't come. He reminds me of a jerk I used to know. And then I said, by the time about midday Sunday, you'll all feel like you've been frat brothers for 20 years. And they do. I led a workshop here in April, just about 3 weeks ago, where 7 guys who did a workshop with me a year ago, they were all strangers when they came to my house. They stayed in touch over the last year and all wanted to come back again and do another workshop with these. The 7 strangers staying in touch, coming back for a second go around. Once men get a taste of this, I call it the secret sauce of just being vulnerable in a safe place with other men, and men don't judge you for what you reveal. They reveal their stuff and you don't judge them, and you go, we realize we're not terminally unique, we're not flawed, we can let go of shame. So I just love that we can do that. I've got also another virtual program called a group mentorship program, where there's 12 units of nice guy recovery that I've filmed 90-minute videos answering a lot of questions on 12 topics. The program goes for 6 months. We have a call every Sunday for that. Every other week I teach the training call around one of those 12 subjects, answer questions. The other week, the week I don't teach, 2 of my coaches lead kind of a small group interactive type thing. So I've got the mentorship program. So kind of the way where I'm sitting right now, that's pretty much evolved to be my 3 biggest programs, especially in terms of connecting with men and men connecting with each other and working on nice guy issues. So the Integration Nation, my group mentorship program that's online, and then the in-person workshops that I do. And then I get invited to speak at a lot of men's events and men's membership programs. So I'm often traveling. I was in Japan a couple months ago. I was in Florida. I was in Austin, Texas last week. I'm going to Australia this fall. I'm going to Copenhagen in November. So I get to go speak live to a lot of these men's
Nice.
groups, which is absolutely
Nice.
love. Couldn't think of a better
Yeah.
job.
Yeah. My ultimate question for you, and this is everybody asks this when I tell them about the concept of nice guys. They're like, but are we supposed to be mean? And could you just describe when you're not a nice guy anymore?
What does that look like? You know, it's such a great title because it's paradoxical. Probably we've all said at some time, no more Mr. Nice Guy. I'm not taking it anymore, right? Maybe we sang along with Alice Cooper, whatever. You and I are old enough that we know what that's about. But even though we've all said that, and we kind of know what it means, we see a book that says, no more Mr. Nice Guy, and people go, why'd somebody write a book teaching men to be not nice? There's enough not nice men out there already. We don't need more books. And of course, it doesn't take people long to get into the book and realize, I'm talking about being authentic. I use a term, I use the integrated man, that we've learned to integrate all aspects of ourselves, the dark, the light, the material, the spiritual, our loving side, our dark side. As a friend of mine told me one time, Robert, you can be a dick, but you're not a dick. If you can integrate those two things, you'll work through a lot of stuff. So I talk about becoming an integrated man, not an asshole, not a dick, not a jerk. And what it is not so much we're becoming the opposite of the nice guy. We're becoming our true selves. We're embracing who we are, all aspects of ourselves. We're letting us see that, letting other people see it, let the world see it. And none of us are perfect. The mantra for my Integration Nation program is good men doing better. I wear a little wristband that just says do better. I don't have to become a better person. I'm fine. But there's things I can do better. I can be more patient. I can listen better. I can set better boundaries. I can get to the gym more often. I can always do things better, but I'm more likely to do things better if I already like me. If I'm not liking me, living in a shame place, shame compartment, I'll do very few things better. Now, I may get perfectionistic and try to do everything right, but that's not the same thing. So what I'm teaching men is to be their authentic selves, to be real, to be honest, to be transparent, to be vulnerable, and learn to do that in safe places first, and then show that to the world, show it to women, show it to, just be that way in the world. And so, no, it's not about becoming not nice. It's about becoming authentic, empowered, purposeful, passionate, and living life on your terms. And then attracting people who like you the way you are and letting go of the people that want you to be something different.
I love it. I love it. Who doesn't want to be with somebody like that?
Yeah, the funny thing is, I'll tell you just one quick story. When Barnes & Noble originally published the book, when they did a little foray into publishing, I think they kind of hoped there'd be some blowback, maybe especially, from women or a little feminine blowback, no more Mr. Nice Guy. There's never been
Interesting.
any, ever. And, I think they thought it would help sell books. The only emails I get from women, and I don't even get that many, but the ones I get are either, thank you for writing the book. I can see myself. I'm a nice girl, and I can understand my ex better or my father. Or perhaps, maybe like you might have been at one point, my son's a nice guy. I'm watching his girlfriend walk all over him. What can I do? I know it's probably partly my fault. And I go, well, unfortunately, you can't do a lot because anything you try to do to help your nice guy son, it's still going to feel like you telling him what he should or shouldn't be. So I'll get emails from women that are very concerned about their kids. I'll get emails from women that say, thank you, this helped me understand my ex. I've maybe gotten, in almost 25 years, maybe a half a dozen emails, maybe 5 or 6 at the most, of women who are mad at me, either because they never read the book, and I could just tell, you haven't even read the book. You're pissed off because of the title.
Well, and there's manosphere guys out there who are saying things that are actually mean, and you're not like that.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not in love with Red Pill, even though they might say some stuff that is psychologically accurate. They weaponize it against women to protect their fragile egos and their own fear of abandonment. So anyway, that's a whole nother
Yeah.
story, whole nother interview. This whole piece around women like the book. They like what I teach. And again, the only angry emails I've ever gotten from women, they're usually about this long, this long, because their husband or boyfriend read my book and left them. And it's my fault
Yeah.
now that their husband left them, and they're writing me this thing this long about every sin their ex ever, and how it's my fault that he's not. And I'm when I get those emails, I don't reply. I'm just thinking, run, Forrest, run. Keep going, keep going. Whoever you are, keep running. So yeah, women really like the book, because what woman, if she's attracted to men, doesn't want an authentic man, a purposeful man, a man, as I said on Chris Williamson, and he almost turned it into a viral meme, a man who's comfortable in his own skin, knows where he's going, and looks like he's having a good time getting there. Whenever I share that with women, they all go, that. Yeah, and that's what I teach men, how to be that guy, comfortable in your own skin, know where you're going, and look like you're having a good time getting there. Yeah, women find that attractive. And my goal isn't necessarily to make men more attractive, but that's a side effect of it, which is a good thing.
Yeah, of them being themselves. Their
Just being
natural
themselves,
energy,
exactly.
not trying to change their energy to make me happy. It's not attractive. Yeah.
That doesn't make women happy. Believe me, I still try that. I still try, how can I make you happy, dear? How come it's never enough, dear? But that's just old dysfunctional patterns. It doesn't work.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Robert Glover. It's a pleasure to meet
Thank
you
you for
after
the
all these years of
invitation.
being a fan.
I enjoy meeting my fans. So thank you for inviting me on your show.